It's time for another episode of Scaling Sustainability Impact, a Siemens podcast for industry. For this one, we are continuing a conversation with Eryn Devola, Head of Sustainability at Siemens Digital Industries, and Rahul Garg, VP of Industrial Machinery at Siemens Digital Industries Software. In part one, we covered machine design and sustainability, but let's go deeper and figure out how companies might want to approach sustainability from an operations perspective.
Let's stay on that topic of machines and drive down a little deeper. When we look at machine operation and sustainability, what is the impact that it's having on factories and machines today?
Yeah, that's a very important thing. There's one interesting statistic I'd read somewhere, which goes to the fact of a 1% reduction of industrial carbon footprint production, right? 1% reduction in that carbon footprint. That could mean 70 million tons of less CO2 emissions per year. Right, so that impact is huge, right? And all that impact can be driven by making the machines more efficient in terms of how they are using energy and the CO2 impact that they can have. So to me, the machine operation can mean significant for the overall drive for sustainability for our planet.
And I think one of the ways that we're able to help better manage that is really getting that IT-OT convergence, being able to see, control, predict what's going on in your production floor, and then manage the energy use of your equipment or optimize that based on that. Looking at minimizing, for example, startups and shutdowns, looking at making sure that we don't have a line that's going down for a material problem, because then we get the best conversion of those resources, that electricity that we're using, into durable products along the way. So really being able to use that intelligence we're collecting by running the machinery, understanding what the use profiles are, understanding what the energy profiles are, and then optimizing that along the way is a clear way that we're able to drive sustainability through industrial machinery.
Yeah, and I think along with the carbon footprint, I would imagine, Eryn, the whole recyclability of waste has a significant impact as well, right? Especially when you start thinking of resources that are used in the production of whatever that machine is trying to do, plus also what's used in terms of trying to run the machine as well, with trying to cool the machine, trying to cool the parts that you're trying to machine itself. So all those things, I would imagine, also have a significant impact on the overall sustainability impacts of how the production is running, right?
So, one of the statistics that I think a whole lot about is where, the truth of the matter is we use 1.7 Earth's worth of natural resources per year. So overall, we would need to decrease that by 59% to get to the point where the Earth can renew the resources that we're currently taking from it. And the challenge with that is we can't just look at CO2. CO2 is extraordinarily important, but we have a lot of other considerations. Water, for example, is one of those that fall right behind there. Looking at how we can maybe recapture some of the things that we waste. Heat is a huge waste in some places where we generate a lot of heat. We don't have a way to turn that heat into energy and a way to then reuse that for another purpose. And I think that those are the circularity models where industrial machinery could really play a big role in solving some of those problems.
Yeah. I think that's a good point. I think the whole energy resource efficiency, all those things are going to have a big impact in terms of how we overall impact the planet itself.
Yeah, very interesting statistics there. When we're looking at machine design, how would we perform machine design for overall sustainability?
Yeah, this is definitely something right up our wheelhouse. When I go back a little bit, as I think I mentioned it in the past, from a design perspective, most of the companies were trying to see how do you improve the overall performance of the machine, right? How do you change the throughput so you can maximize the utilization of how the machine is getting used. Now it's just not how do you maximize it, right? You got to play a balancing act. How do you maximize it? Plus, how do you optimize it for sustainability as well? So those two factors have to be put into a balancing scale, if you will, right, to make sure that you're doing the right things. And that's where using digital twins to simulate hundreds and dozens of different variations becomes very critical and actually very, very important to help you make sure that you're making the right choices, making the right choices in terms of how you're doing the designs, making the right choices in terms of the materials you're using, making sure that you are optimizing it for water, energy efficiency, waste, making sure that you're placing sensors on the machines to deliver optimum data metrics, designing the machine for end of life cycle recycling, disassembly. How do you change parts in there? How do you optimize it for even making it more recyclable at the end of life? So these are all important things that have to be thought through, and I really think there is no other way to do that process without leveraging a comprehensive digital technology and a complete digitalization solution that can bring all these things to bear together. Because you cannot try and optimize for one part or one challenge. You have to optimize for all these variables together, right? So it becomes a multi part variable equation that you have to solve. And the only way to do that is by leveraging digitalization technologies right up front during your design process.
So when you're looking at all these variables of optimizing for sustainability, how do you ensure peak machine performance is sustainable?
Yeah. So, so first of all, I think just to go back onto that whole design process, right? In fact, there was another statistics that was put out there that 80% of all product-related environmental impacts are determined during the product design phase, right? So if 80% of the performance, 80% of the environmental impacts are all going to be determined at the product design phase, you have to obviously make sure that you are trying to optimize that whole process to the maximum, right? So to help you optimize that whole process, help you optimize your performance, to help you optimize your sustainability requirements, there are various technologies that are available. One of them is around the whole concept of virtual commissioning, which allows you to bring all of the capabilities in a virtual format without actually having to build or construct even a single part. And if something goes wrong, you're in the virtual world. You can start from scratch again, and makes it very easy to bring in and take advantages and benefits of a digital twin, leveraging a digital twin, reducing your times and cost, making use of a digital twin to test out all of your different operations, optimizing operations, making your production more flexible and predictive, right? So all that can be done using virtual commissioning and digital twins, understanding even the carbon impacts. So these things are very much possible. So not only are you optimizing it for peak performance, you're also trying to understand the sustainability impact, the carbon impact of how that machine will be running. I don't know, Eryn, if you have any thoughts to comment on that, anything else to add in there?
So I think one of the big shifts is that peak machine performance in the future will include its impact on the environment. So and I think, Rahul, you hit on this earlier, that these factors, these number of variables that you need to solve for, that you need to optimize for, continue to grow. And I think that that's a big part of it. The other part of it, and we don't make these design jobs any easier, but you also have to look at that over time and over the entire lifetime of the product. One of the big things that I think will continue to be something that we'll work on and work to solve is getting not just the virtual commissioning that which you just spoke to, but virtual maintenance and being able to really repair, upgrade equipment with as little human interaction as possible. And we talked to some customers attempting to run dark factories. This is one of their biggest concerns is how do I maintain the equipment moving forward? And I think that that's a solution or a problem that we still need to drive through to solve, and one that I think is coming for us.
Eryn, since we are talking about multiple equations and variables in there, even on the topic of sustainability, right? Sustainability is just not one variable by itself. That's another multi-part equation, right? All the way from global warming potential to ozone depletion, freshwater impact, minerals, metals used in it, water usage, radiations. All those things are another set of variables that need to be solved, right? Under just under the topic of sustainability, and I would imagine there's probably many more, right? That need to be addressed.
So when we talk about regulation, I know you mentioned it at the beginning, one of the biggest pieces of legislation and the broadest is the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive coming out of the EU, with effectivity as a required reporting in fiscal 25. So really not very far away. And that requires entities that are either manufacturing or selling in an EU country to report 400 different environmental related KPIs. So to your point, it's not just a couple of things. Now, what that does for us is that push in legislation gives us the transparency we need to be able to give the information into these design processes, where, as you mentioned, so many of those impacts can be minimized and understood. But the truth is the technology we need is available. And I think we're getting to the tipping point where people are really putting a priority on applying that wonderful technology we have to solve the problems. One of the other things you mentioned is that governments aren't only writing legislation, they're also providing incentives and funding to help solve some of these problems. So we've got some motivation, some funding, and we have the technology. And really in industry, we have the momentum and the size to really make a big difference. So as depressing as it sometimes feels, I think there's so much opportunity. And I think, if we talk again in 6 months, we're going to see that this is really moving along and really furthering our ability to positively impact the environment.
Eryn, just since we are talking so much about the overall challenge in this whole scope here, I wonder if there are some thoughts you could share on how someone can start on this journey.
There's a great quote out there, and I'm sure I'll misquote it, that talks about how a sustainable society doesn't require a few people doing it perfectly. It requires everyone doing it imperfectly. And I think the most important thing that entities can do is to start and get going. I think other thing to always consider is you don't need to hire 4 people who are really sustainability experts. You need to infuse sustainability and environmental protection considerations into almost every role in your organization. You need people who are experts on metals or on polymers to be able to look at that and understand what the impacts are on those. And then I also need to have designers who understand how to balance water usage. And I need to be able to understand in production, how do I minimize standby energy usage, and really taking that core technical skill sets that we all have, or those business focused skill sets that we all have, and apply sustainability principles and considerations, and really make sure that that's part of your decision making, is what's the impact on the environment, whether that be in CO2 and water usage and toxic substance usage and microplastics. I know it's a lot, but it takes a lot. It's going to take everybody doing part of it to really make and move that needle. And I think, again, that so much, it's getting so much more attention from governments, from companies, that we're really moving in that direction with some momentum that maybe we didn't have a few years ago.
I think what you're saying is that there is a way to get started, and there's a lot that can be done, but you need to make some initial steps. Maybe Blake, I don't know if you have any thoughts on what we should be trying to cover on next based on that.
So as we're forecasting the impact of sustainability, how do you see sustainability playing an ongoing role in the future of industrial machinery?
Yeah, when you look at the eventual goal of sustainability, right, it's zero waste, zero downtime, zero harm, and I would say at least zero impact on the planet, right, with low cost, clean, renewable energy use. So those are the overall big picture goals that many companies are driving towards. And decarbonization, energy efficiency, resource efficiency, circularity, all of these are going to become actually significant competitive advantages for companies, and your ability to have that incorporated into your business is not only going to make it a big value proposition for your business, for your sales to your end customers, but it's also going to have a profitable view inside your own operations, and eventually make it you into a more sustainable business as well, right? So eliminating or addressing these issues is not eventually for a whole lofty good cause, if you will, but it's actually for your own successful future as well. So I really do think it provides that holistic view to look into new business models and new markets as well. And I do think even as you are growing your company, as you look at what you're going to do in the next generation, in the future, students are going to be and new employees, right? They're going to be looking to work with the companies that are that have a focus on environmental impact, that have a focus on sustainability, because to them it's an important element that they have grown up with, and they see the big impact it can have for their own future. So when we are thinking of 50, 100, 200 years from now, we have to start thinking about the impact even today to make those longer term decisions in this whole process.
You know, as I look to the future, I think about a couple of things. I think there are those that will look at sustainability as an obligation, and that there are those who will look at it as an opportunity. And to the point you just made, Rahul, that I think those that look at it as an opportunity are going to be faster, more agile, and more creative on how they approach these complex and multifaceted problems. And I believe they're going to come out much more successful in the long term by adapting their business models, by really rethinking how they do things. And, you know, by having digitalization as this key enabler, it really gives you that ability to think bigger, to think broader, a little bit more off the wall, and take those best, maybe less intuitive ideas and pull them forward. And that's where I think technology can really leverage the opportunity of sustainability and help you comply with the obligation at the same time.
Good point. I think there's a lot. The future is green, I guess, to put it simply, right?
So do either of you see a day when students will go to college and they'll actually get a bachelor's degree in sustainability in a particular industry or field?
Yeah, no, at Siemens, we're actually working with the university right now and co-developing a circular economy focused certificate program. And we had a conversation about this just yesterday, where we talked a little bit about, how does sustainability as a skill set or as a topic pull in? And I really think that we'll see it as a part of every curriculum moving forward, that you're going to be in your MBA program taking a sustainable development class. In your mechanical engineering program, you're going to take a course that really helps you get oriented to sustainable materials. I really do see this topic being integrated much more broadly than having a few expert programs where every company has one expert who can talk to sustainability. It really needs to become not a bolt-on, but core to what you're doing for you to truly be successful, because it's so big. It does really require that systems level approach and systems level thinking. And that system is no longer inside your two gates. It really extends that whole value chain of the product and in the whole ecosystem of what you're operating.
It's a good point you're making there, Eryn, because earlier in the conversation you had said that you don't need 3 experts, quote unquote, sustainability experts in your company. You need everyone inside your organization to be thinking about this, all the way from the person who's designing a part to the person who's manufacturing something to your purchasing officer, right? So all of them have to be thinking about this. So if all of them have to think about this, I guess all of them who studied for whatever expertise in their curriculum, in their bachelor's degrees, they will all need to add an element or a factor of sustainability into that, right?
I mean, that's the way that I see it. And maybe it's a little bit because I grew up in quality, and you can't just hire 2 quality engineers and expect that you're going to have a quality product at the end. You have to build a quality culture. You have to put quality into every process that you have. You have to have a good quality quote going out to your customer. You have to have a good quality order that you book. You have to have a quality in your specification or in your requirements document, in your execution. You have to have quality elements all the way through. And I think the exact same way about sustainability. It has to be something that you're integrating into the heart of your organization, into your culture, and really driving it through in every one of your organizational processes to ultimately be successful.
Right. I was just going to say, it really touches on all areas of sustainability. So thanks to both of you for those excellent points about implementing sustainability into every aspect of a company, along with seeing the resulting benefits.
Thank you so much for taking the time to learn about sustainability in the realm of industrial machinery. For more information, check out our website in the description. And subscribe so you don't miss future conversations with experts across Siemens.